remember Anduin as the golden boy, the knight in shining armor just a few years back, and now he's looking like a 15-year-old wretched blood elf, dehydrated, looking like he was just seed from the desert. What actually happened to this guy? Some would say the Shadowlands happened, which technically is true, but if you missed the storyline and some other hints from Dragonflight as well, let's bridge that gap. He has been missing for over 5 years, and he has apparently also lost his light, which is going to be a massive part of at least the next 2 expansions. So what is even going on with Anduin? If you guys want to buy Total War, Elder Scrolls, or any other game, you can get them at great prices with my Gamivo link. You can also get anything Warcraft related, gift cards and software, and all below market prices. Best of all, if you add my code DORON, you can get an even bigger discount, so make sure to check out my link in the description and get some amazing deals with Gamivo. So, Anduin has always been like the golden boy, an idealist, the perfect king that was always open to peace, which was much different when compared to his father, but now he might finally be understanding why his father Varian was quicker to aggression and how the world isn't exactly a place where you can always talk things out, although I would say they also changed a few years back. Due to his boyish looks, his above normal open mind to peace, talking things out, mercy, forgiveness, emotional displays, he has kind of developed this reputation within the Warcraft community of being like this weak crybaby. Even people said that about him crying in the newest cinematic, but let me just kind of give you a different perspective on this, as there is really so much more to his character than meets the eye. As Anduin was a prince as well as very young, people associated that Anduin was born with a silver spoon like a spoiled prince, and it was his lack of trouble and immersion into the real world that led to his like insanely idealistic view of the world and how everything can be solved with talking. But that actually isn't true whatsoever if you actually dig into it. Like, this guy has had a troubled life since he was born, and he has actually kind of developed this mindset. Despite all that, most people would be a lot more bitter. Keep in mind, Anduin's grandfather, the King of Stormwind, had been assassinated. Then when he was very young, he lost his mother Tiffin, who was killed in the Defiance Brotherhood rebellion with a rock, and since then it has only gone downhill. His father was abducted and he was left in charge of Stormwind and the Alliance together with Bolvar when he was literally only a few years old. Then his father returned, but not exactly to a peaceful world, and he barely spent any time with him. We had the Lich King, we had the Cataclysm destroying half of the world, and a big portion of Stormwind as well, like a giant dragon literally burned half the city right outside of his window. Then he went to Pandaria, he was shipwrecked, he was captured by the Horde, he was almost killed by Garrosh personally. Then literally just a few years later, his father gets turned into ash by Gul'dan in a massive legion invasion of the entirety of Azeroth. Now, as a really young man, he is given the incredible burden of leading the entire Alliance, where not many really respect him due to his age, especially his enemies that see him as weak, and especially with his enemies being Sylvanas, who was controlled by this jailer and was bent on actually making war. Of course, right off the bat, he is led into a massive war where Sylvanas forces his hand, but he now has to invade Undercity, he has to lead a massive Horde in the Alliance war in BFA, but that is literally just the start of his actual troubles. Even until that point, it was the light that had saved him, and he maintained his peaceful mindset despite all the crazy things happening. However, then Shadowlands came and he's literally abducted to go into Azeroth's version of hell, where he becomes the pawn of the main guy, like literally Satan himself. Now, honestly, I feel a bit strange talking about how much Shadowlands had traumatized him, because I feel like a lot of our players also share the same feeling. Like, not many people take this storyline super seriously, but it is technically the canon. It 100% explains why he is such a mess today, and it is really even a shock that he managed to survive and to retain any semblance of sanity by this point. So, to give you a super quick rundown, the main reason the jailer decided to abduct Anduin in particular wasn't only to weaken the Alliance, but it was mainly that he could enter Bastion as a paragon of the light. Initially, he was imprisoned within Torghast, where Sylvanas tried to give him a choice to serve, and he ultimately didn't accept, and then they decided to break him by force. Now, keep this in mind, Anduin was mind-controlled through his father's sword with the soul of Arthas. Just the fact that Arthas' soul was added and connected to his domination might have given him a residual effect that he could have also felt the tragedy of Arthas' life and all the bad things that Arthas had done and that he had lived through. However, most importantly, Anduin was specifically tortured and broken by this master wraith called File the Afflictor. That was like the jailer's go-to guy in order to break really powerful souls. I mean, think about it. This is the afterlife. You have nothing to lose apart from destruction. So these guys are experts in how to torture your soul and mind, which is unlike anything any regular mortal could experience in the material plane. They almost certainly have access to all your memories, to painful parts of your life, so they know exactly where to twist, like what buttons to push. Then, when he was completely dominated, he was forced to go into Bastion to kill Kirestia, the leader of the Kyrians. Then he does a whole bunch of other bad things, completely serving the jailer, despite also trying to free himself. Keep in mind, and I think this is really important, we probably didn't see everything there was to it. He might have committed a whole lot of other bad things as well, serving Zoval that we just don't really know about. Ultimately though, we did manage to free him, but right off the bat we knew something was wrong and that he wasn't exactly himself. Now, keep in mind, this is hinted at in the newest cinematic, but also near Shadowlands ending. He was obviously tortured with the memory of his father, which at the time was very fresh, and it probably played a big part, like in breaking his mind. However, the biggest thing that we know 100% that mainly broke him was his connection to the light that made him doubt himself, which is evident in the newest War Within cinematic. Anduin had absolute faith in the light that had always seen him through all the challenges he had faced. As I previously stated, he has been through some really bad things, but this was one time where he couldn't actually do anything, so we had to step in to save him. Anduin himself said each time the jailer dominated his will, he felt slipping further away, as though everything that he once was being consumed by darkness. As Anduin later stated, he was afraid that his tiny bit of willpower that wasn't actually dominated enjoyed these dark things, and he now was incredibly afraid to actually call upon the light, concerned that it wouldn't answer his calls. Now, back at the end of Shadowlands, this was implied that he was afraid, but now with the newest cinematic, he confirms it, which obviously was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Keep in mind, Anduin had been missing with Dragonflight for about 5 years in total. We know he had been through the maw, he had seen terrible things with his own eyes, like after all these jailer things. Keep in mind, like this place is literally hell itself. At one point in his hiatus, he probably attempted to call upon the light, like maybe a few years later, and his suspicion was confirmed that it wouldn't answer, and it of course didn't, and that is ultimately what kind of made him lose hope, what made him lose his mind, and we can see him being finally broken when he's talking to Troll. Now, most importantly, we have this whole blank spot here where we have no idea where he has been these past few years, so even worse things might have actually happened. However, most important thing that you need to keep in mind is that like what 5 years actually are. I mean, previously this guy was a king, he lived in a palace with servants, he had the absolute best care, best weapons, best armor. Now he has been roaming Azeroth, the universe, for who knows where for like years, eating who knows what, sleeping who knows where, all that with no purpose that we know of, as he was not leading the Alliance as he was in the past. Just this aspect alone would lead to his aged and incredibly different looks. I mean, just imagine like roaming the deserts and the wide world for like 5 years alone. Like, that would definitely change your life experience. Now he started getting these visions. Now, Blizzard sort of stated that he isn't actually aware of the World Soul, which I honestly find strange. I feel like that will probably be expanded upon in the future. However, this guy could not catch a break like since he was born. Now, this new look means he has completely grown up, and I think he will get a new model in this expansion where he will definitely kind of get himself together and he will look more like a king than a guy that barely survived the desert. However, before people say that Anduin is a crybaby, I mean, keep in mind, he has been through some things. Thank you for watching. Check out that we're going to be playing Vampire Death Knights, Templar Paladins, as well as a whole bunch of new classes by clicking on the screen, and also check out my video on Ancient Greeks in Spain by also clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!